Hello and welcome to the Gauntlet podcast, where we review movies. I'm Zach, and this is Dom. And this week we're going to be reviewing 1917 World War One movie epic.
My favorite movie.
Dom's favorite movie.
Yeah, favorite movie.
Takes the top spot.
Apparently.
Yeah, this is a good one. Came out in 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're gonna jump right in with some general movie breakdown.
Yeah.
Was it Christmas?
It was Christmas or over Christmas. I remember.
Over Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, oh man. All right, what do we got?
Okay, so first two comments, one positive, one negative on Rotten Tomatoes. First of all, Rotten Tomatoes, it got a 88% on the tomato meter.
Okay.
IMDb, I got an 8.7, I believe. So the general public likes it.
Good.
All right, so
I'm blurry.
All right, so this person says we should be drawn. This is a negative review, by the way.
Oh, okay.
We should be drawn into the personal story director, into the story director. Okay, sorry, let me restart that. I totally read that wrong. We should be drawn into the personal story. Director Sam Mendes loosely based the movie on his grandfather, Alfred's wartime experiences. But instead, we're watching all the smoke and mirrors. It's sound and fury that could signify so much more.
So they weren't saying it was bad. They're just saying it was bad at sending the message that it was trying to send.
Yeah, they thought there was too much smoke and mirrors, apparently. There you are.
Here I am.
Now mine got a little blurry. I don't know what's up. The last week, too, the cameras were going back and forth with that.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Maybe upgrade or something.
They're just too cheap of cameras. You gotta get better.
So I thought, okay, because here's point blank, here's the thing. The plot itself, right, is nothing really amazing, right? Oh, get here before they die.
Exactly.
Not basic, but original, but also a little basic.
Mm-hmm.
But the way it's done is where it just shines, you know? Like, it's portrayed to be like a one-shot movie, you know? There were two, really. Now there's more based off of like camera tricks and stuff, but it's just you're literally following them for 2 hours, and you'd think that'd be really boring, but they keep it really interesting, which I love. So I think I don't know what they were asking for from the movie. Like, they see it's a personal story done in an amazing way, but they thought it signified something else, or it could have signified way more. I mean, that might be a compliment if you think about it, because it's like it captured what it was supposed to capture, but it could have been story bigger than that. I'm like, maybe true, but I think what I loved, and I guess this really fits into the whole breakdown segment, is they really just, if you're nostalgic and into history like me, you know, they put you there, just a little slice, a little quiet, sometimes loud slice of this movie, of this world. And you know, the whole world is fighting around these guys, but they're in this little piece of it, and you're with them going through to the end, you know? And I don't know, I just feel like it's super powerful because it's super human and super real, because in real life, you're not being taken from, oh, you're suddenly in France. No, now you're in Germany, or now you're in Britain. It's like, you're one guy experiencing a world war as yourself, you know, with your buddy. And that's what it is. It's like through the eyes of just like it's two guys, you know? And I think it's super potent that it's like shrunken down. Like, you took this massive thing and just kind of shrunk it down. That's my take on it. I love it.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I feel like they literally, like, it's like they just dropped you in the middle of the trenches. And you have the two main characters at the beginning, right off the bat. And they made it so personable with them. I found myself thinking, oh my gosh, all these guys around them have the same lives these two do. And it made it so personal. Like, maybe, and like what you said, that was probably the goal. That was definitely more of the goal. And maybe this negative comment saying it felt like smoke and mirrors. They didn't expand like they should have. Maybe.
Right.
That wasn't the point. The point was
therein lied its power.
Exactly. It's like, this is their experience. This is the world they're in. Yeah. And I know normally war movies that's normally what they try to do, because that's where the most power is. I feel like that most people agree with, where instead of showing like this, like a epic story where, kind of like where they're jumping around, like you said, to all sorts of places all the time.
Right.
You don't really get attached to the characters. There's more power in you understanding these people and going through it with them.
Right.
So, but this was a new take entirely, because it literally was shot on them the entire time. They were never not, well, obviously, of the two characters, Schofield survives the whole movie.
Yeah.
So you're literally like, you were with him the entire time, which is totally unique, and I feel like there's a lot of power there.
Yeah. Do you know what I just realized? Now this will go into cinematography, but I have to point it out. You're at the back of them the whole movie because you're following them, and then at the climax, he's running toward you. And you see his face.
Great point.
And like, because the whole time you're following, and then in this case he's running it, and it's the shift because he's almost there,
That's
and you can
great.
see.
Because almost like I would say, like 98% of the time you're behind your back, except for like moments, obviously, but like
go around, but like you're walking.
But almost like you're always, because they're always going towards the goal, and then when he's like there, the climax, that's so good. Which
everyone, I've read reviews, I've seen videos, everyone says that scene is so powerful, because it's the end, it's the final push. And as we'll get there eventually, I know, but like as he's running, he's failing / getting there at the same time because they're already going. But anyway, okay, so is there another review, or is
which I feel like that's great, because it shows that even though you're not getting 100%, he got like maybe 75, and it was way better than 0. And he didn't give up because he's like, oh no, they're charging already, I failed, and just stayed there.
He kept going.
He still saved the other waves that they were going to send. Okay. All right. This person like this person like that. He says, what makes it so special is the balance between artistry and realism. Mendes, the director, reaches down into the mud and finds something beautiful. I feel like this guy got it.
I think I got it.
That's great. Good. That's a great way to sum it up, I feel.
Yeah. It's like, because physically they actually do that, like they're freaking, it's the trenches of World War I, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, because like the artistry of say the fancy cinematography, or of keeping it one shot, which is really hard to do. Mm-hmm. But pairing that so well with the raw, and that's what I like in war films, is when it's like Saving Private Ryan, where it's just raw, like the footage is desaturated, it's dirty, it's actually like war, it's not glorified and like stab, it's actually like
you're not there for a picnic.
Exactly.
There. And so what I love too, like on that note, I love moments where you're watching and you almost feel like you're like, why isn't he moving faster? He's being shot at. But then you're like, but that makes it so much more real, because like, for one, like these people, like they're like surprised, they're shocked, they're scared, they're scrambling, they're panicking, or they're just like trying to move forward, and you realize that's exactly how people would probably look.
What would happen
in a real situation, because you're not just gonna know exactly what to do. Where like I love this scene. It's kind of a sad scene, because obviously it just shows the horror of two young men who have no idea why they're doing certain things, and they have to kill one another because their leaders told them to.
Because these old men in castles say so.
Exactly, because they want, because wasn't all the leaders were cousins, right?
They were all first cousins.
Yeah, they were first cousins.
Yeah.
So it was a massive family feud that just blew up into a world war.
Yeah.
But the scene where Schofield is sneaking around the village toward the end, and he goes into that. He hides because that German comes out and throws up.
Yeah.
He hides. Then he sneaks in.
Yeah.
And he comes around the corner, and the kid looks like he's like 17 or 18.
He's so young.
He looks at him, and his eyes get big, and then Schofield puts his mouth over his hand over his mouth and shoves him up and tells him quiet. and they both nod at each other, and you like it's such a real moment because they're both
dad.
They're both freaking out.
Yeah, like they're young. They don't want to objectively kill each other.
Exactly.
In the broad sense, subjectively, they don't want to kill each other because they don't really dislike each other.
They're just trying to survive.
Right. And then he's got to strangle this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's super.
Like they both nod. You think there's understanding. You know something's gonna go wrong, obviously, and then the reason. You even know the reason why. It's Schofield and Blake.
Yeah, Blake.
So you even understand why the German stabs Blake, because you're like, why would you do that? He just saved his life.
Yeah.
Well, the guy just got shot down.
He thinks they're gonna kill him. They're two.
Exactly. He doesn't understand their language. They drag him from the plane. Like he's probably thinking, I'm a prisoner of war. They're gonna torture me. They're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to escape.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that Blake just told Schofield to get him some water.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know any of that. So it shows the grim horror of war for one, and how those two scenes, I feel like they're very similar because it's kind of flipped.
You know what? As many times as I've seen this movie, I never made that comparison. That's so cool. Yeah.
It's almost because it's just flipped, because in one scene the German kills Blake and then Schofield kills him. And obviously Schofield doesn't get killed in this instance.
You wonder if Schofield
but
got out some anger.
It's kind of reversed. Yeah. I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So it's just like a beautiful comparison in the sense of the examples given and the cinematography of it, and script writing, because in this instance it's flipped. He's behind enemy lines.
Right.
He ends up killing one of them too, and then running.
Right.
Maybe they would have just captured him and been like, hey, you want some, like, we don't want to kill you. Like,
right.
You don't know. That's the thing. But that's the thing. Schofield didn't know. So he killed one of them and ran, just like the German did with Blake.
Right. That's the key. And that's a beautiful blend, unless you had another review, but that's a beautiful blend.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. We can move on.
Character development, because I think I was thinking, like, if Schofield, like if he's trying, because obviously he's trying to like fulfill the mission and save Blake's brother, right? So he's honoring Blake more by not enacting revenge on the Germans and just by going forward and getting the job done, because he's saving more lives by doing that.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to him by putting aside any frustrations he has and just getting there. Even I love how, and it's so true mentally speaking, because at the end of the movie, before he finally reaches his goal, he's so beaten down, he's so mentally tired, he's crying, he's like, he is shot, he's so just, his eyes are dead, he just keeps moving, and it's not glorified as in like he falls down, it's like, I have to keep going, and then he like goes, it's like, it's just like a robot, he just goes, and it's because we're in a physical world, he gets it done because he just keeps going forward, even though it absolutely sucks, and he just wants to pass out and die, and it's funny because, no spoiler obviously, but they don't tell you he's a husband and father until the very end. And I watched an interview, and the director's like, we did that on purpose because we didn't want it to be cliche. Not that it's cliche at all, but movies do this all the time. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, I got to survive. I got a wife and family waiting for me. Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be about everything else, And then you find out at the very end, that he's a husband and father. And you're like, oh, that was part of it too. And it's just icing on top, because it fleshes out his character fully. Yeah. And
that's great.
Everything he said about family or duty or the mission throughout the movie is wrapped up with a perfect bow, at the end when you see the letter from his wife about come back to us,
all of it in context. Like it changes the context so much.
Right.
I just got really blurry for some reason. I think I moved too fast.
It just solidifies everything and wraps it up beautifully. It's like a little bit of parsley at the end of like a steak dinner, it just brings everything together.
Exactly.
It's
that's so great.
See, that's great. Like, because Schofield, like objectively speaking, there's only like two characters throughout the movie. Like, there's not just two, but to really dive into. Blake, to move on to Blake, I think, is much more of a boyish character. He represents
exactly.
Yeah.
I put that down. I felt like Schofield from the very beginning, even like you said, at the end, his eyes are almost kind of like glazed over and kind of dead looking. I feel like even towards the beginning, he already had some of that.
Yeah,
even in some of the lines that he says, you can tell he's been through more than Blake has, and maybe he's even older. You know, because at the beginning, as soon as they get the mission, Blake's like, "We got to go. It's my brother. You know, this, that, and the other thing. Let's go." And then Schofield's like, "But what about the Germans? They could still be there." And Blake says, "No, they've gone. Didn't you hear what the general said?" Yeah. And he says, "Yeah, we thought that they were gone too." And then he names another place.
Right, he's like, "You don't know, so, you weren't there." Yeah,
you know, he has seen some hell.
Yeah,
and so that just adds on top of the fact where he looks more beaten down than Blake does, and even in the sense where he's more cautious and wanted to kill the German.
Yeah,
and ended up killing Blake.
Yeah,
because he's like, we should just put him out of his misery because he. I mean, unfortunately, like you don't want to think like that, but he knows what could happen.
Yeah,
which did happen.
My friend will die if I don't kill the enemy who's not I don't hate, but will kill my friend.
Well, exactly. He's like he knows that there's like he knows what it could potentially become in the sense of like we could die here still, even though he's laying on the ground. We just saved his life.
Right.
So yeah, it's just you just know that he's been through more than Blake has.
Right.
And then Blake, like you said, is a little more boyish.
Yeah, it combines, which it's not as in your face as some other themes in the movie, but it combines it contrasts the characters better, because they can play off each other. Because now that I'm thinking about it, most of Blake's lines, like they have the air of like he's telling the story, he's trying to bring the mood back up. Because Schofield's just pissed.
He keeps going on about turkey at the beginning.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh,
turkey dinner, this, that before Christmas.
Christmas is coming." Yeah, it's like war. Like the war can't even stop Christmas. Like we're still getting to go home and everything. And then Schofield's like, "I hated going home because just the thought of them and me, like we can't ever see if we don't ever see each other again.
Exactly,
going home,
He said,
and like he doesn't care about the medals or anything,
Yeah,
like it's a bit of bloody tin,
Yeah, so, like it's easier if you never go back.
Right. It's like it's
because he said his leave got canceled, and he's like, it's easier.
Yeah. And you think he's grateful, probably. I mean, based on what he said, that his leave got canceled, because now he doesn't have to endure that anymore. He can just do his job and then get back, hopefully. So that's beautiful. I like it.
Almost. Oh my gosh, man, this blurriness is really annoying me. But it's almost I liked how so even the way Blake talks about his brother, it almost shows like, I don't know, like boyishness or innocence in the fact where
they're some years apart too. They're like
exactly, but it's like he would do okay, obviously it's a great sentiment to be like, well, yeah, you do anything immediately to save your brother, but given the circumstance, you need to be smart too. Like he was ready to just run into no man's land, where he could have just been gunned down immediately. There was no thought of caution, which also you understand Blake even more so, where you're like, this guy is green. He's a noob.
So super impetuous, like not even
exactly. Yeah. Like he doesn't, he's like maybe impulsive when he knows something should be done that is good.
Yeah. Obviously, why wouldn't we do it if it's good?
Exactly. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having that emotion or feeling to go save your brother immediately, obviously.
Right.
But in the context they're in, they're in the middle of a war. You can't just run into no man's land. Otherwise you're going to die. And then nobody's going to get your brother, and then you both die.
That's exactly what Schofield says.
Exactly.
If we're not careful, if we're not smart about this, no one will get to your brother. And then to your point, Blake's like, I will. It's like, that's cute, but that doesn't make any practical sense.
Exactly.
You got a plan.
A sense of a lack of maturity on his part, where it just but it's done intentionally to show which makes it so heartbreaking when he dies, because he died out of his instinct to be good and kind and save somebody, even though it's the enemy. And then things just turn on him when he did, like, that was not at all we thought would happen.
Right.
So
like, it's just, dude, oh my goodness. It's so deep. I didn't even realize this, because you'll notice when they're going through the bunker, he's like bouncing on the bed, he's like checking out the rations, and then like he sees the picture of the German soldier's sweetheart, and because he has a wife, you totally tell once you've seen it that thinking about his wife, that he doesn't comment. He just kind of goes by. But then Blake would have commented, but he's like a little boy in a candy shop, like, oh, we're in the enemy's trench, like, look at this, and then Schofield,
look what I can do. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
Which just and it's great because they tie all that in, but then he dies before halfway through the movie. Like, and so it's just, but I feel like it was obviously done in a way intentionally throughout all of it, so that the moment when he dies is the pinnacle of Blake's character arc. Like it comes full circle. And that's why it's so impactful. Which is why the rest of the movie, whenever you see Schofield doing the mission, you're thinking, like, I remember the first time I saw the movie in the theater, for some reason, because of the preview or the pictures I saw, what are they called? Posters. And they were both on the poster. I thought that they were both going to be in the whole movie.
I know.
Especially with how the movie started and the way they had the character dynamic between them, which was great. So as soon as he died, I was thinking of Blake the whole rest of the movie because of how impactful they made him in the beginning and his death scene. So it's obvious, like, the writers were brilliant. The screenwriting, the way the director pulled it off, I thought it was just great.
I like how they didn't pull any cute Hollywood moves to make the audience feel good about, like, Blake dying. Like,
no,
he dies. And last time I saw this, I thought about it. I thought it from this, I saw it from a different perspective last time. And I was like, Blake just dies. I was like, how do you just walk away from his body?
Well, yeah, because they didn't show him burying him. He didn't have time.
He has to sit him down. He just has to go.
He has no time. Like, he's supposed to get there before, like, he has like a night to go, because in the morning the attack's happening.
And I was like, how do you walk away after someone dies? Because then you're telling yourself, this is it. And no one wants to be the one to end it. And you're like, I am ending it by walking away, but there's nothing else I can do because you're literally dead, And it's like, how hard that would be to just kind of, I gotta go. But by going, he's honoring Blake even more, because that's what Blake, if he was alive, would have been like, get the hell out of here, go, like, fulfill the mission. Not only for me, but like, save my brother, So the pain of leaving him is also, it's helped by the fact that he's doing what he would have wanted anyway, So that kind of, because I saw that, I was like, damn, how would you do that? How would you just walk away? Because you don't ever just walk away. It's like but which is why the general guy is super cool, because he's obviously more experienced than Schofield, like we're saying about, because like Blake's he's new, he's super green, Schofield, and then this general that he meets, and he's like, let me tell you something you probably already know. He's like, it doesn't do to dwell on it, in his cool British accent. He's that guy in Kingsman. What's his name? Lancelot. Not Lancelot. Sorry, that's the girl. It's G. It's not Guinevere. Not Guinevere. Galahad.
I forget what's his name. He's a
Mr.
really
Galahad
famous actor. Well, I have it up. I have it right here. Yeah, he is. But come on, I need to scroll through the.
It doesn't do to dwell on it.
Colin Firth.
Colin? No.
No. Oh, I'm thinking of the other guy.
The other one, yeah.
Oops, wrong guy.
But yeah, regardless, like his,
because is it Mark Strong?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's the bald guy, right?
Yeah, the bald guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a hat on the movie, but yeah. So like, from an experienced soldier to another, he's like, it doesn't do to dwell on it. When you're in the war zone, you can't think about your buddies dying. Like you process that when you're not in combat, because you're going to be dead too if you try to process it during combat.
Yeah, if you break down on the battlefield.
Right.
I mean, I've never been on one, but
right. I mean, he has the mission to still complete. Exactly. So
yeah,
I guess we can move into protagonist and antagonist at that point, which I guess we've already been covering pretty much. Is like the antagonist. I love how this movie is so potent and so popular, and there's no, obviously the Germans, because it's from a British perspective, which in the world perspective is pretty much, the Germans in the Austria-Hungary, but essentially
I feel like it's more like time.
It's not it's not objectively just the two sides, it's the situation,
it's more like the Germans in this case are the obstacles that just make time even more so the antagonist, because you have so little of it. He needs to get there before the attack. He's running out of time, and then there's obstacles in his way, such as Germans shooting at him and trying to kill him.
Right. And you'll notice in the last scene, in the climax, right, where he's running, it starts and there's like a clock ticking in the background of the music.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I do remember that.
And you're like, and it just adds to the subconscious level of clock's ticking, they're about to charge, get out there. So I'd say time. Well, even the previous set of the Race Against Time, but they heighten it at so many points, of just because in the beginning half it's more about evading German, like navigating German trenches and getting across no man's land safely, right? And then towards the end, because it's in the heart of enemy territory, obviously you've got more Germans shooting at you. But just, and the way it's what you're supposed to do in a movie. It's like there's the ramp, like your rising action, and they do that beautifully because it gets more and more intense as it gets going, now he's got like his head wound or whatever and a bunch of other stuff. But I think in terms of for capturing an antagonist that wasn't physically present, they did it beautifully.
It's constant. I mean,
you feel like it when it's over, because you're like,
exactly, because there's limited time, and then like you said, as they ramp up the obstacles in this character's path in this journey, it becomes more and more obvious that he's running out of time. Because at first it's like, it's still daylight. He has to get there before the attack the next day.
Right.
And then it's dark and you're like, it's night now. Closer. And then you're like, it's almost morning. And then things keep getting more and more intense. And you're like, he's running out of time. And so it's just they really did a great job, like you said. Exactly. There's this, like you said, they do a great job, an intangible antagonist in the sense of time. And yet it's just constant.
And then when Cumberbatch says Major, he's like, stand them down. You're like,
oh my gosh. I wrote that down in my notes, where it's just like when he says that, you just like release a breath and you've been holding for who knows how long.
You didn't even know. You were just like, like
you're just like, finally, because at first you don't think he will, because they did a great job of immediately making him off to be this kind of character where he's not a bad guy. He's just a very confident that he's right, and nobody can change his mind. Kind of person.
He's like, more guys will die if we just keep pulling back.
Exactly. So you get where he's coming from, and so you're like, wait, is he gonna disobey orders? And then he finally says the words, and you're just like, wow.
Well, which is why the other general says, when you finally give the orders to him, make sure they're witnesses, because some men just want to fight. He's like, make sure people hear you tell him to stand down. Otherwise, he might just be like, well, I'm going to silence you.
That's a great point.
So they tie that together really well. Okay, so moving into acting. Who wasn't amazing in this movie? And they made the point in the interviews I watched that the actors for Blake and Schofield, although Blake was in Game of Thrones, but he was really young. They were relatively up and coming. You know, they weren't really.
Oh yeah, they weren't big names at all.
You know,
it wasn't like they picked. Yeah,
and they did it on purpose so that you could bond with these super random, relatable, innocent young British soldiers. You know, who didn't really. I mean, they don't want to be there, obviously, and it was just there was a lot of empathy going on for them. You know.
Yeah,
it wasn't
which
like
I heard. That's the same idea the directors had for Matt Damon's debut in Saving Private Ryan.
right,
But
and then he got
fortunately, Good Will Hunting came out right before that movie, and he blew up. So they're like, great. So when that came out, people already saw him as that character. So it kind of didn't work there. But in this case, it totally worked because, yeah, you're like,
I still haven't seen, so we should probably watch that soon. Good Will Hunting.
Oh, it's great. I think I've seen the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a deep one. It's a deep one.
I've seen clips and I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing. So I gotta watch that.
We should totally, That's a great, yeah, good idea. Should put that on the list.
We'll write that down.
We'll write that down. Acting is just beautiful.
Beautifully done. They made nobody's the main stars and then stuck in all these famous people to bolster them up, like Cumberbatch, Colin Firth, that other guy, Martin Strom.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all British actors. So I think that was cool the way they did that.
No, I totally agree.
Okay, so cinematography.
This is really not.
This whole movie kind of revolves around cinematography because it's got to be 2 shots, which
incredibly prevalent.
You think it might get boring. It will not get boring. You just gotta watch it. We should link to every movie that we review in the description so you can go see it and it's just accessible right there because that'd be awesome. I think I've geeked out a bit about this movie for the past few years and I've watched every YouTube video there is on it. So they literally, before they dug the trenches, they had the 2 actors say their lines and walk. And they measured how long it would take them to say their lines, like 20 different times. Wow. And then because the trenches had to last as long as the lines lasted. Otherwise, they'd run out of trench and they can't cut. So it's like they had to say their lines with the same cadence. And sometimes they'd finish a really long shot and then like their rifle would slip off their shoulder and they'd have to redo it. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I say sorry. And they're like, oh,
my goodness.
So they'd have to redo another like 20-minute take, you know. But cinematography was just a masterpiece, and all the cranes and people they had handing it off and making it super smooth was amazing. So we'll fix our cinematography for this podcast as well.
Yeah, my camera.
Both our cameras are
right now. It's been blurry almost the whole time now. I don't know why. I'm trying to get to refocus my hand, but that's kind of not working.
Yeah,
we might just need to invest in better cameras.
Yeah.
But one thing I loved, so on your point, where what I loved about this movie as well was because the shots were so prolonged and it was like watching the best parts of a play in a movie where you could see the actor the entire, like the opening shot is 9 minutes. I watched a breakdown on it before we did the podcast, and opening scene 9 minutes.
9 minutes long.
And the whole time there's something going on. They're acting the entire time. So it's not like in movies, like you always see the actors best because the shots are quick normally. Right. You know, what's longer than maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes tops, maybe in most movies ish around there.
They'll say their line and then it's to the next one.
Exactly. So they have time to, I don't know, refresh, you know, like make sure their face is good again, you know, like make sure, you know, they might shake out their facial muscles and then go back to
makeup comes in, like touches them up and then they leave.
Exactly. But in this movie, you see them almost the entire time. And so you can tell in the best of ways, you can see their acting. Like you don't think, oh, they're just acting, this isn't real. But in the best of ways, you also are like, you can see their acting and it's great because you realize that they are this character and they're this character the whole time.
The whole time.
And you see all the little nuances. You can see almost too when they like when they're not being the intense version of their character, when they maybe don't have any lines.
They're just like walking.
They're just walking as the character, and it feels like you're there with them, this is why this type of movie is so brilliant, because it's like you're there in a totally different sense and almost more immersive than another movie where you also feel like you're there, maybe.
Right.
Like maybe, a Band of Brothers or Saving Private Ryan sort of.
Right, for sure, yeah.
Where you can you feel like, oh my gosh, like it feels like I'm there in a certain way. But in this way, you catch everything, even just when they're walking, like just their little nuances as people.
Yes, exactly.
And it's just great. I just love it so much.
Yeah, it's a testament to, well, not just the acting, but also like the directing of how they should act, throughout the entire shot, and the fact that you can stay in character when you're not expressing a quirk, but you're just walking, but somehow you're still walking
and
like
still in character, which is great because we both did some play or stage acting growing up.
Right.
So like obviously we weren't anything big, but we were given the concept of you need to act even when you are not acting. Like even when the audience is looking at another character delivering lines, you need to be in the background or next to them. You're still acting, even though you're not maybe the pinnacle of focus in the moment or in the scene. So you got to see that in this movie because of the way they filmed it.
Right.
And it's just great because you see them acting even when they're not acting, It's great. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Okay. Moving into script writing. So there are only a few moments in the movie where the lines are about the plot. Well, not really. I guess I shouldn't say that. But I mean, like when the officers are talking, or the generals are talking, or just key moments where it's about the plot, such as when they're given the quest, the mission, and then when Blake dies, and then the end, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
In between, I think, because I'm a huge fan when movies, they kind of give the finger to the plot and focus on what matters, which is the character dynamic, which the Adam Project does really well, which we'll do next week because that's really good.
Yes, next week, the Adams Project. Stay tuned.
Crap, I love that movie. And essentially, they just kind of toss out we're going to attack these bad guys next, and they make it more about humanity. Right, the human element.
That's one of our favorite words here. Yes. The humanity, the raw humanity.
Like
we like a movie when we throw that in there.
Exactly. Yes, and that's what they're getting at. I think it's the way it's not special. They're just there's banter. They're talking, trading stories about did you hear what so and so said? Like among the soldiers and stuff, and it's so real and human and raw. Where they're trying to either pass the time or lessen the tension or whatever, or just make things more enjoyable as they're on this kind of very, very very stressful mission, So they're surviving the best they can, and it comes across in just how they move, what they say, and how they say it too, I think. So yeah, I think flawless script, I think.
Well, and everything ties together so wonderfully too. It's just everything. And I loved, and also like to that point, I loved how the beginning ties together so well, because with this kind of movie where you're following somebody almost POV, you can't you can't take your time in making them do something, otherwise it's going to be boring.
Exactly.
So I loved how I timed it. I checked the the bar at the bottom, the time bar. 7 minutes into the movie, they have their mission and they go.
Okay.
So it's like it's pretty much immediate when that first hook hits.
Right.
And I would say, I mean, I'm kind of spitballing here, throwing out ideas, but I would say maybe the first plot point is after Blake dies, and then Schofield has to do it on his own.
The first.
Because I feel like,
wow,
because that's kind of a quarter in, because it's not even halfway.
It's not even halfway?
I don't think so. If I remember, if maybe I'm messing this up, but that's my guess. I don't know, because I feel like the mission is almost, it's more, I mean, it's way too soon to be a plot point. It's more of a hook, because it's like, okay, you have a mission, but then how are they going to do it? you don't know that until after Blake dies.
That's a good point.
Because then you're like, Schofield now has his mission. It's all on him. And he's gonna go.
In the end, he's the main character. Yeah, and it's harder to reveal more about the plot because you already know. You're like, well, he has to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like the plot points are unique in the sense of that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the whole mission. The plot points, they reveal how, and also kind of I feel like almost too more, they're like character driven plot points in a sense.
Yes, definitely.
So anyway, but yeah, I loved how it was immediate. Like they set up in 7 minutes, they set up the characters. Like it's called the movie setup, you know, to prepare for the rest of it. They set it up in 7 minutes with the conversation, the banter, the feel of the movie, walking through that trench, the whole and then the continuous shot. Like, you just get a sense of what it's going to be, and then mission, and they're out the door. And things are moving, and so it's wonderfully done because you don't get bored at all.
Did you notice? You don't. You know, like, I mean, you really don't. I've made a lot of friends watch this movie because it's my favorite, and I'm always just like, what'd you think, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, you look at it,
they're always like, whoa, you know, like, I wasn't bored. It's like, no, you weren't. It's beautiful.
You know what's funny is, so with movie like this, and movies kind of like not well, I guess I can't say movies like this, but that general feel where, you know, this movie is going to be thought-provoking, different. You know, it's not going to be movie candy where you're just going to like, oh, that was cool, you know, dopamine hit, like, yeah, I was like eating a brownie.
It's super like easy. Steak. You're digesting.
Super easy to watch, to eat.
Yeah. It'll be.
But then when you're watching it, it's what's powerful is that you realize, even though it's not the same as other easy movies to watch, you're not bored and you're enjoying it. That's one of the greatest feelings ever, because you realize, I don't know, you realize you appreciate it in the way it was supposed to be appreciated. And that makes me feel good. Because it feels like, I just ate all my vegetables.
And you feel good about it. You know, like brain food, you know?
Exactly. It's like brain food. Yeah.
It's healthy. Also, did you notice that it starts and ends the same way? Schofield against the tree.
Oh my goodness. Right.
Yeah, it's so, because it's kind of like the movie starts and he's relaxing, and then it ends, he can finally relax again. You know, like, it's over. He's done his duty. And what's cool is the fact that the movie doesn't end, like, the plot's not really it's kind of over. So the plot is over when Cumberbatch says stand them down. The story isn't over until he shakes Blake's brother's hand, and the camera kind of goes around, and he's like, thank you, Will. And you can tell they're saying story's over, because 30 seconds later, movie's over, you know? So it's kind of like the end of they let you know when the plot's over and then when the story's over. And that's really cool to do that.
And that's a great point, because like we talked about, when the Colonel or Cumberbatch says, stand them down, you feel a sense of relief.
Right.
And then you feel another sense of relief when he shakes his hand, because I was watching it, and
I want to watch this again now.
When he turns and starts to walk away, you're like, dude, say something more, or you know, this is it. Like, you're just gonna leave. Like you said, like 2 words, and he's like sad and said something back, and you're just gonna leave. And so when he stops and turns back around, you're like, yes. And then he says his other lines were, can I write a letter to your mother? And he was a good man, and shakes his hand. And like, he always made me laugh. And you're just like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. But and then you feel another sense of relief or contentment there. So it's like the two storylines come to there's closure.
And it's beautiful. Okay. Getting into music.
This is
Okay.
This is a very interesting one right here.
Thomas Newman did the music, and he has a very ethereal feel. You know, like I'm a huge fan of nerding out over movie music.
Okay, Thomas Newman. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but if you want to know what he did Finding Nemo.
Yes. Because you'll notice the same thing.
So when Dom says ethereal there, you get the sense of what he means then, because think of Finding Nemo soundtrack where
It's
you're
like,
thinking of ocean.
Yeah, it's like,
kind of like
it's a very vast sound. You know, it's a very like
fast
sound sound. You know, like it's just floaty and out there because it's a vast ocean or because it's a war. You know, he did. It's not as popular, or it wasn't as mainstream. It's really good. Tolkien.
Which that music, the movie is great. The music,
I just watched it. Yeah,
the music, like no diss to the movie. The music is almost better.
Oh yeah,
in the sense of like, so the movie is amazing. It's wonderful. The music though,
watch it.
You just want to cry. Like
you do.
Like when I listen to the soundtrack, I have a few of the tracks saved.
Yeah, me too.
And they're beautiful.
Yeah.
You just want to start crying. Yeah, it's great.
It's it touches your soul or something. So yeah, so the music, and it's funny because it's very it's very not depressing. It's haunting. That's a good word. It's very haunting the whole time throughout the movie, because he's encapsulating the sound of death in no man's land. You know, like they're walking around. There's no one else there. They're in war-torn Europe, and the sound is just like this. It's like this very haunting.
You know what I loved on that point of the sound? There are many instances in this movie where there's almost, you couldn't even describe it as music.
You couldn't tell.
It's just a background sound.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a prolonged note.
Yeah.
That just kind of wavers and just is there in the background as they're talking at certain instances. Obviously, there's music in other parts of the movie.
Right.
But there are parts where I noticed there's just sound.
Yeah.
And then that also plays into how the sounds of them moving and doing things are also very crisp and makes you feel like you're right there with them too.
Right.
But
they really weaponize sound in this movie.
They really do. Yeah. But the music is perfectly placed, and then the sound, like I've just like there's I don't know. I just thought I could just best describe it as a note.
Maybe like
just a note just playing the entire
your brain picks it up more because of this of the sounds they're using. Like the music, the sound effects stand out even more because of the way they're using the music. You know?
Yeah.
So they use the music to bring up everything else, which is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it's flawless. I love it.
It is beautiful.
It's totally flawless. Okay. Now this will be, oh my goodness. How do you encapsulate the breadth of this movie into one? So philosophical meaning.
Wow.
Like,
I mean,
it's like a crap ton of different themes to unpack. It's like
you could mention the struggle, but that's such a, I feel like such a simple one. Like I feel like it's so much deeper. Like obviously, oh, look at the struggle. He keeps going. He succeeds.
Right.
That's kind of you could say that for almost any movie.
You could be cliche and say, oh, camaraderie. You know, like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
I think it's way deeper than that, though.
So much deeper.
Yeah.
Because there's such almost a hurt going on as well.
Oh, hey, that's good. Okay.
Because if you go deeper than just, oh, heroic struggle, you know, camaraderie, there is hurt, there's anger, there's incredible amounts of pain.
You know what? We can summarize it in one word: humanity.
That's
so good because it's about humanity. Like in war, there's hurt, there's hope, you know, there's fear, you know, I mean that, you know, you don't want to get too hopeful because you might die, you know, and camaraderie, boredom, you know, nobody talks about it, but the soldiers say, and it's known, like the boredom of war, because you're just sitting around doing nothing a lot of the time.
Can you imagine too? So sitting around doing nothing
in a state of heightened tension,
waiting to charge to pretty much certain death.
Yeah.
And so you're just sitting there thinking about it for that long. Like
imagine
the trauma just from that, let alone everything else.
Right. Like I've you know, I'm a history buff. So World War I, they would have, imagine this, a football field worth of barbed wire in front of their trench. and the guys would run up to it and just get shot as they're trying to get around it and go under and over this 100 yards of barbed wire as they're just being mowed down by machine guns. And then the generals are like, charge, 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 and they're just dying, you know? So it's pretty bad.
From what I've learned, and a lot of it you've told me, because you like way into this more than I was growing up.
Yeah.
But I think you might have been the one who told me this, but just the idea of warfare.
Yeah.
It was just changing from old to new.
Right.
Where they had old tactics against new weapons.
Yeah.
So charging a keep.
These old romanticized generals with their swords on horseback, like charge, and then all the men
charging a keep with a battering ram with shield and armor against arrows. Okay, yes, very dangerous, lots of death.
Right.
But better chance of blocking arrows with armor and shields.
Right.
They had that same concept of charging, and there was some success there because they would form the shield wall type things, and they break down gates. It worked.
Well, think about it. It's like the Revolutionary War. You had the honor of the battlefield, where it's like, oh, like your turn to shoot, now our turn to shoot.
Exactly, yeah.
And that was carried into this age of new weapons that could kill men so
quickly. So you'd have like the guys trying to go over a football field worth of barbed wire.
Right.
In the age of a machine gun.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen The Last Samurai, and those are on horseback.
Exactly.
There's no barbed wire.
Exactly. So it's just we can look back now and say the lunacy, but then it was so new, and you had like they were doing what they knew.
Right.
I guess. I mean, we don't know. I mean, you can only go off of what's in history books and what's.
Well, I mean, the Germans would. Like the French were still wearing red and blue, like red pants with blue jackets, and the Germans were in their gray.
Yeah.
They'd pick them out and just shoot them because they're in red.
You can see them still easily.
Yeah. Colors on the battlefield.
Or the story of, I forget where I heard it. The story of, I forget. I think it was the English. They charged tanks on horseback with sabers.
Yeah.
Just got demolished.
It's so sad because you'd think common sense, but I know. Also, it's hard. I don't know.
You have to think though. So imagine in sports, you have your playbook. The coach has his playbook.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think here, and this is probably mostly off, but I'm wondering so these guys had a playbook with all their strategy.
Yeah.
And they tried their best moves against new weaponry.
Right.
And they were hoping for the best. They
knew they were made of metal. What they think they could do? I don't know.
I don't know.
I wasn't there. But yeah, common sense would say otherwise. But regardless.
But anyway, the point, the humanity. You can sum this movie up: the pain, the hurt, the suffering, the hope, the little joys, the success, the death. This movie encompasses so much in such a grand way, in a simple way too.
Yeah, it's epically non-epic.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't. I mean, it's so much deeper than just the struggle.
Okay.
Keep struggling on and you'll succeed.
Right. It's not like a cat poster.
No, this is way deeper.
They don't shy away from showing how shitty it can be.
Yeah.
They tap into the mental game. It's not a very violent movie. You don't see a lot of. You don't really see. People, I mean, with the exception of a few times, you don't really see people die. But it's all about the mental game. And they weigh heavily on that part of it, which makes it so much more impactful, I think.
I agree.
Very potent. Okay. All right. So are we ready to score?
I believe we are.
Okay. In terms of movie breakdown, just everyone knows I'm just going to give every single one of these a check mark. But that's where the curiosity lies in what you will do. Movie breakdown, I give that a check because it's awesome.
I'm going to give it a check as well because I just am.
It's awesome.
I think it fit the bill.
Yeah. I mean, for all the points we've been saying, it's hard to recap.
Exactly.
Why, because we've already said why it's good.
Yeah, and it's people probably know what our score is going to be based on what we just said.
Right.
So if we go off negatively on a point, obviously that's not like, yeah, obviously that will in the future when we review it,
right,
minutes later, we'll reflect.
We've had time to reflect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Character development. Hell yeah, that gets a big ass check.
Yes, check that box.
Just because, yeah.
Just because.
Because yeah, I mean, yeah, it's flawlessly done. So many things, like they're not just done right; they're done flawlessly. You know.
Oh, you want to know? Okay, I forgot to mention this in cinematography, but you want to know one thing, one scene, not even scene because it's so long. One instance in the movie where I thought was flawless.
Yeah.
When he finally reaches, well, it's not his final destination, but he gets through to the English, and he sits against the tree, and the soldier is singing the song,
dude.
And it's hauntingly beautiful. But then what wraps it all up even better is the camera's following him and he walks up to them. He sits, see his face. It comes around, goes into the group of soldiers, and then comes around back and approaches Schofield from the front.
Right.
And it's just so wonderfully done. And you feel the emotion so much because as it's going towards him, you're getting it's passing all the faces of the other soldiers and then just watching.
It's just these farm boys.
Exactly. You see the emotion on their face. Like they're just waiting.
They're about to just go get gored with bayonets or like choke on gas and like just horrible ways to die. And just these innocent dudes who just, they really capture just the frustration of it all. It's like, why?
Humanity. Yeah.
Because it's some stupid family feud between these monarchs, It's like, so anyway.
But I just had, when you said flawless, I forgot about that. Just that whole movement, the singing, the song, the words of the song, paired with the voice, the setting, all of them sitting there, Schofield, his exhaustion, his desperation.
And it's like, I'm going home coming back to see my brother, and Blake is not.
Exactly. Yes.
It enhances the pain. And Schofield picks up on that, obviously, because he would. And that's a good point.
It's just, it's great. Beautiful. Anyway, we can continue, but I forgot about that. I wanted to bring that up.
Brilliantly done, Hetty. There we go. I got it right. All right, Protagonist,
which is a greatest game ever played movie reference, by the way. If you guys don't realize, we throw in movie quote lines.
It's how we communicate 80% of the time.
If you guys can pick up many of the movie quotes, comment down below.
Comment below. Yeah, you're a fellow nerd like us.
You'll win brownie points if you get it right.
Yeah. We should have like a shirt with like a whole paragraph, not a paragraph, but like a quote made up of other movie quotes. And if you can understand it, you get extra brownie points. That'd be fun.
That's great.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah. So Protagonist, Antagonist, check for you or no?
Yes, check. Yep. Give it a check.
Okay. Acting. Oh man.
Check. Yes, for sure.
Big old check.
This thing's gonna pass.
Yeah, I think
beautifully. I think because it's just
it's just that good. Cinematography, check. Script writing, check. My goodness. Music. I can't even ask the question. It's so obvious, that it passes.
Well, it doesn't help that Thomas Newman is one of both of our favorite composers.
Right.
So, movie composers.
Hans Zimmer, James Horner, and Thomas Newman for me.
I would say, those are probably pretty similar to mine. Yeah. Thomas Newman, Hans Zimmer. I don't know. I like some of Howard Shore's stuff. I mean, he did. I mean, that's. I don't know. I guess that was
Lord of the Rings, so he kind of gets.
There's some in there that I grew up on, so I love that. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, John Williams is good, but it's a little too.
It's very epic.
There's a little too many. Yeah, it's too epic, and there's too many like symbol clashes. It's not like solid.
Yeah.
There's no horns. Others anyway. Philosophical meaning, check. Big old check.
Check.
If you weren't keeping track, it passed with flying.
If you are keeping track, that is a flawless score.
That is a flawless score. We have a golden movie right now.
I feel like, so here's our problem is when we decide what movies to review, I feel like unconsciously we're picking movies that we know we'll like because unconsciously we just do that.
So
we're not going to pick
movies we've never heard of.
Exactly. Give us recommendations so that we can enter some new territory. Yes. Although we have picked some, I think 2 movies
like Power of the Dog, the Adam Project, that'll be good. Those are more. The Batman, that was new. Yeah.
Red Notice, that was new.
Yeah, that was new. Uncharted, that was new. That was good.
Was new. Yeah.
Brilliant movie. Anyway, yeah, okay. I wrote down a big old star and golden movie because it passed flawlessly. Perfect. So next week.
All right, next week, The Adams Project. Check that out. Stay tuned for that.
It's gonna be a great one.
Comments, leave them below. Recommendations. You know where to find us.
Do you have a segment you'd like to see in the Gauntlet list, or one you want removed, or what? What do you find out? Let's have a conversation. All right. Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you next week.